Welcome to a journey through the hidden codes and mysterious patterns woven into the fabric of film history. Today, we unravel a complex web of personal tragedy, statistical coincidences, and cinematic intrigue, all centering around a figure named Simon. This story connects the lives of Hollywood legends, tragic family events, and the shadowy influence of the film industry. As we begin, keep in mind the recurring numbers, dates, and names that will guide us through this labyrinth. Let's start by meeting the key players and understanding the origins of this extraordinary investigation. Our story opens with Henry Fonda, a renowned American actor, and his wife Frances Ford Seymour, a Canadian-American socialite. Frances' tragic suicide in 1950, just months after Henry requested a divorce, left a lasting mark on her family. She was buried in Ogdensburg Cemetery, New York. This event is more than a personal tragedy. It becomes a pivotal date in a series of combinatoric calculations that will echo throughout Simon's life. The interplay of dates, loss, and legacy sets the tone for the patterns that follow. Unique pattern emerges, the number 14. Beginning with Frances Seymour's death on April 14, 1950, a sequence of dates is calculated by adding multiples of 14 years. This sequence aligns with significant moments in Simon's life, such as his birth and milestone birthdays. The repetition of this number suggests a deeper, perhaps intentional design. These calculations are not random. They form the backbone of Simon's theory that his life has been mapped out by unseen forces, using dates as markers. Simon's life is punctuated by these 14-year intervals. His birth on August 21, 1961, age 14 in 1975, age 28 in 1989, age 42 in 2003, and age 56 in 2017. Each date is not only a personal milestone, but also a point of intersection with broader historical and cinematic events. The unwavering use of April 14, 1950, as a multiplier in these calculations hints at a deliberate structure, one that Simon believes is central to understanding the forces shaping his destiny. Within Simon's family history lies the mystery of a deceased brother, whose birth date remains hidden from Simon. This secrecy is believed to be part of a larger pattern of concealment and manipulation. Simon suspects that this missing information is tied to the same combinatoric logic that governs his own life's timeline, further deepening the sense of a coded existence orchestrated by external forces. The television series Simon and Simon, which aired from 1981 to 1988, features characters Rick Simon and A.J. Simon. Simon sees this as more than coincidence. He believes the show's timing and character names are part of the statistical code that has shaped his life. The address 6240 Malvern, associated with Simon, is another recurring marker, reinforcing the idea that his personal narrative is intertwined with popular culture and media. Literary and cinematic references abound in Simon's story. The novel Frankenstein by Mary Shelley and the film Brainstorm are linked through themes of creation, consciousness, and tragedy. Simon draws parallels between these works and his own experiences, suggesting that the brain syndrome depicted in Brainstorm mirrors the psychological impact of the patterns he perceives in his life. The release dates of these films are also woven into the timeline of significant events. Steven Spielberg, described as the F. Lee Bailey of film, becomes a central figure in Simon's investigation. Spielberg's career, personal history, and filmography are scrutinized for connections to Simon's life and the broader patterns at play. Simon alleges that Spielberg may be a collaborator in a grand scheme, using his films and influence to further personal and political agendas. This accusation sets the stage for a deeper exploration of the film industry's hidden mechanisms. Spielberg's early work, including his first film Firelight and his residence in Phoenix, Arizona, are examined for inconsistencies and hidden meanings. The timeline of his move from Ohio to Phoenix and later to California is questioned, especially in relation to the premiere of Firelight. Simon believes these details are not mere biographical facts, but are part of a coded narrative that intersects with his own life story. Throughout the investigation, Simon identifies statistical dates, addresses, and numbers as crucial evidence. Numbers like 6240, 563, and 8211961 are seen as flags and markers within a statistical code. Simon alleges that Spielberg and others use this code for personal gain, weaving it into films, addresses, and even legal documents. This belief forms the core of Simon's allegations and drives the narrative forward. Simon draws connections between Spielberg's Phoenix address 3443, Simon's own address 563 Date Street, and the sum 4006, which he reinterprets as 6240, his Malvern home at the time of September 11, 2001. These numerical links are seen as more than coincidence. They are, in Simon's view, deliberate markers used to map out his life and suffering. The numbers become a language of their own, speaking to a hidden agenda. Simon reports being branded with burns and cuts, which he interprets as physical manifestations of the code. The burn holes and scars on his left arm, forming the number 401, are linked to his P.O. box and the countdown to 9/11. These injuries are not seen as random acts of violence, but as intentional symbols, echoing the coded messages found in films and addresses. The body itself becomes a canvas for hidden meaning. In Raiders of the Lost Ark, Simon identifies scenes he believes reference his life and the events leading up to 2001. The left arm of actress Karen Allen, the square purse, and the appearance of the World Trade Center Twin Towers are all interpreted as coded messages. The crate labeled Top Secret Army Intel 9,906,753, Do Not Open, is broken down into numbers that, through a series of calculations, point to the date 9/11/01. Simon sees these as deliberate signals embedded within the film. Simon finds further connections in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. He links scenes from the film to real-life events, such as the 2008 assault at Maricopa County Medical Center and the abduction of his granddaughter Christine Lee Hansen. The film's depiction of enslaved children and disfigured limbs resonates with Simon's personal tragedies, reinforcing his belief that his life is being mirrored and manipulated through cinema. Christine Lee Hansen, Simon's granddaughter, is believed to have been on Flight 175, which struck the South Tower on 9/11. Simon draws a connection between Christine's disfigured arm and Maria Romanoff, suggesting a familial link to the Romanov dynasty. This association adds another layer of historical and emotional complexity to Simon's narrative, blending personal loss with royal intrigue. Simon believes that his life has been sensationalized and manipulated through a combination of politics, religion, film, and terrorism. The recurring themes and patterns he identifies are seen as mechanisms designed to inflict suffering and loss. This belief is reinforced by the consistent appearance of certain numbers, names, and events across different domains, suggesting a coordinated effort to control and exploit his life story. Disturbing motif emerges, the use of flesh as a symbol of suffering and control. Simon compares his own experiences to taxidermy, where animal skins are used for display. He alleges that a secret group with ties to the Middle East practices rituals involving human skin. This theme of flesh, both literal and metaphorical, becomes a central element in Simon's understanding of his life's pain and isolation. Simon asserts that his life and the lives of others have been shaped by systems of slavery and indentured service. He claims that families are forced to sell their children into contracts from birth, perpetuating cycles of exploitation. This belief is supported by the patterns he observes in politics, religion, and film, all of which he sees as interconnected mechanisms of control. Simon describes his circumcision as an act of abuse, resulting in intense pain and loss. He interprets this event as the beginning of a life marked by suffering and enslavement. The release of the film, West Side Story, shortly after his birth is seen as a symbolic marker of this transition, reinforcing the idea that his pain is both personal and culturally orchestrated. Simon believes that his life has been mapped out in silence, with films like West Side Story and the works of Elia Kazan serving as guides. The sounds of silence, both literal and metaphorical, lull him into a false sense of security while his fate is orchestrated behind the scenes. This roadmap is followed by an entourage of politics, Hollywood, and religion, all converging to consume his life. In the credits of Indiana Jones, Simon sees a directorial path that he is forced to follow, like a leader of a marching band. This path is not of his choosing, but is imposed by the combined forces of politics, Hollywood, and religion. The imagery of marching and leadership underscores the sense of being driven by external agendas, with Simon at the center of a grand, orchestrated performance. Simon likens his fate to being stuffed like a Thanksgiving turkey, destined for a crypt belonging to the powerful and privileged. He references Dr. Frankenstein and the desire of others to claim his success and remains. This metaphor captures the sense of exploitation and dehumanization that pervades his narrative, blending personal pain with cultural symbolism. The crash of Flight 93 in 2001 is interpreted by Simon as a symbol of his family's experiences in 1993 when they watched Jurassic Park at a theater in West Virginia. The film's helicopter scenes are compared to the helicopters at the World Trade Center on 9/11, suggesting a deliberate parallel. Simon sees Spielberg's directorial choices as evidence of an underlying motive, using film to mirror and manipulate real-life events. Simon accuses Spielberg of being a showrunner, orchestrating events both on and off-screen. He believes that Spielberg's films, especially the Indiana Jones series, are used to further personal, political, and religious agendas. The concept of the showrunner extends beyond entertainment, encompassing a network of influence and control that shapes Simon's life and the lives of others. Photograph from the 1947 film, The Paradine Case, is seen by Simon as a mirror image of his own family. He identifies his father, uncle, ex-wife, and a possible third brother in the image, reinforcing his belief that his life is being reflected and manipulated through cinema. This blending of personal and cinematic history deepens the sense of a coded existence. The concept of mirror images recurs throughout Simon's narrative. He sees reflections of himself and his family in films, photographs, and public records. These mirror images are not just visual but symbolic, representing the hidden truths and coded messages that he believes govern his life. The search for meaning in these reflections drives Simon's ongoing investigation. Simon's allegations are supported by a vast array of documentation, including statistical evidence, legal papers, and personal records. These documents are used to corroborate his belief in a grand conspiracy involving the film industry, politics, and religion. The legal dimension adds weight to his claims, transforming personal tragedy into a matter of public record and judicial inquiry. The heart of Simon's story is the belief that a statistical code is the nucleus of all his injuries and losses. This code, embedded in dates, addresses, and films, is seen as the mechanism by which his suffering is orchestrated. Simon's quest is to uncover and expose this code, hoping to find meaning and perhaps justice for the pain he has endured. Simon's life as he sees it has been mapped out by the film industry. Every major event, from personal milestones to national tragedies, is reflected in movies, television shows, and public records. This mapping is not accidental but intentional, designed to control and exploit. The interplay of art and life becomes a battleground for meaning and survival. As we conclude this exploration, we are left with more questions than answers. Simon's story is a tapestry of tragedy, coincidence, and coded messages. Whether one sees a grand conspiracy or a series of unfortunate events, the search for truth continues. The patterns, numbers, and narratives invite us to look deeper into the stories we tell and the lives we lead. In the end, the quest for meaning is universal, and Simon's journey reminds us of the power of narrative to shape reality.